Okay, a little bit about myself. I actually grew up in KZN in Ladysmith, a very small town. We relocated with my family to the Western Cape when I was just a teenager. And my mom has been in the wine industry, and I think that's where my love for wine grew. And I did an internship at Niekerk and spent some time in the cellar. And yeah, decided this was the career for me. A little bit about our range. On the reds, we have our, obviously the standard cultivars. We've got a Cab, a Merlot, a Pinotage, and a Shiraz. Then we've also got our Laureate, which is our flagship. And then we have our Noir de Noir, which I see is listed on your email. So I don't know if you're using that in your pairing. And then we've got the Noir de Noir. And on the white side, we've got the Blanc de Blanc. We've got a Sauvignon Blanc and a Chardonnay.
So Bonny, Zonnebloem, I know it doesn't have an estate as such. So I think the questions were always, where do you source your grapes from?
Okay, so we actually have we're wine of origin Stellenbosch, obviously. So we have producers that deliver to us in Stellenbosch. They deliver to us every year. Most of them are like third and fourth generation already delivering to us. So we've got a very long history with the blocks on these farms. You know all of them, all the farmers personally, you know every block personally, because you know we're getting the same blocks every year. And I've been with Zonnebloem 15 years.
Wow.
And all our Cab, Merlot, Shiraz, Pinotage, Petit Verdot has come out of the same blocks for those 15 years. Our producers are great. We've got a wonderful viticulturist, Isabel, also a lady, and they're very open and willing to take advice for her on how to improve quality for the next year. So we work very closely to them if we're not happy with the quality we received one year and what they need to do in the vineyards to improve for the next year. Yes, so the Noir de Noir was put out there to sort of match with our Blanc de Blanc, and it's a lot lighter than our main core range. I hate the word tutti frutti, but it is a little bit more on the tutti frutti style, easy drinking, wine by the glass, kind of for restaurants, you know, everyday drinking table wine. So they've sort of tiered it under our core range because stylistically is a lot different to the other reds we produce, and then hence it has its own label. Okay, I'll start with Pinotage because I hate working with Pinotage. It's the most difficult cultivar. Pinotage always comes in a lot earlier, and we basically finish pressing before any other grapes come in. And I always say the wine gods knew how difficult it would be. So it has your undivided attention at the beginning of harvest when you're still fresh and in a good mood and have had enough sleep. So our trick with Pinotage is for me personally is to ensure that it doesn't develop into that bitter kind of old school style. So we press quite early. So we get our grapes in, we crush, we add some tannin, and we let it cold soak. So we try and extract as much like color before we start our fermentation. Once we're happy with the color, we get our yeast in, and then we mix, very gentle, soft mixing. We do some delistarging, which means we drain the juice off. We leave it off the skins for a few hours. We let the skins get really hot and extract, and then you pump the juice back on. And then we usually press when it's still very sweet, probably between 8 and 10 bulling. So we taste our Pinotage tanks every 4 hours, because when it reaches that little prime spot, you've got to press straight away. Pinotage ferments very quickly. So if it's ready at midnight, you need to press. If you wait till the next morning, it could be dry and you've lost that window of opportunity to press when it's still got more of that red fruit, not sort of that heavy, bitter, acetone banana style. And it can head that way very quickly. So that's our Pinotage challenge. In Stellenbosch for Merlot and Cabernet, I think everyone is allergic to green, green aromas and green flavors. So that is our biggest struggle, is to ensure that we harvest that fruit really ripe, that there is no green pips or any green tannin that can be extracted during the process. We also press these tanks quite early. When they've still got a bit of sugar, it'll be the same as the Pinotage. We taste quite regularly. And as your alcohol gets higher, it starts to extract more of the bitter tannin from your pips and your seeds and the bit of stems that get into the tank. So it's really important for me, for our cabs and our merlots to press early before we extract any greenness from any stem that's landed in there or any unripe pips, to also ensure that we've got more of a fruit-driven wine. And so Shiraz, the biggest challenge for Shiraz is it's quite a stinky cultivar. It can be naturally reductive when you're fermenting. So you've got to have a really good yeast nutrient program, because once your wine is reductive from the start, that's it. You're never going to get it clean. You really struggle. And I know a lot of people, you can aerate and people pump it over copper fittings, but you never ever get it clean. So you've got a very small window period in fermentation to make sure your fermentation with your Shiraz is clean and it stays clean, and that you can actually taste the cultivar fruit. And the last main cultivar we use in our core range and our laureate is Petit Verdot, which is just the easiest, best grape to work with. It does exactly what it's told. It's well behaved. If you press it early, you press it late. It's gorgeous. It's lush. It's dark. Always got a beautiful fat palate. Yeah. So that's the way. That's our head girl in the cellar. She always behaves well. We do natural malolactic fermentation on all our tanks. We don't add any bacteria. We're very blessed. We've got quite a super bug in our cellar. So our mallows are very, very quick. It's done in 2 to 3 weeks after we've pressed. So it's a big challenge for us to get off our grows lees and get it onto some nice wood for mallow before we lose that opportunity.
Very interesting. That superbug that helps your malolactic fermentation.
Yeah, saves us a lot of money. Bugs are expensive.
Okay, and it's interesting to know that all the different yeasts. Would you have different yeasts for different cultivars?
So we do have different yeasts for different cultivars. We've got, so on your Cab and Merlot, you've got yeast that sort of extract or produce more red fruit aroma, obviously, which is what you want because we're trying to avoid the green. For Pinotage, I try to choose a less strong yeast because naturally it ferments quickly. I remember the very first tank of Pinotage that we fermented for Zonnebloem. It fermented dry overnight and I was devastated. It was this beautiful rosé, but it definitely wasn't a Pinotage. And it was a very hard lesson to learn in my first harvest. So with Pinotage, yeah, we want something that's going to ferment slow and evenly, not spike temperatures, something that's going to have the handbrake up. You've got to have the handbrake up with Pinotage the whole way. And then obviously with Shiraz, a yeast that has a low nitrogen requirements, because I don't want the yeast to be adding to the reductivity already. That is a problem with Shiraz.
Very interesting. Okay, so I've got these lovely wine stewards and sommeliers to be who would love to ask you a question each, I'm sure. So I think I'll start with Elangeni Maharani.
How are we doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you for talking to us. Very grateful. Unfortunately, I don't really have any question at the moment, but yeah, I'm just grateful to hear how you actually work with your wines on that side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe Sinead Sinclair from Joburg. Have you got a question there, Sinead?
I don't have a question today, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Have we got one from Solomon? Yes, Solomon is from the Radisson Blue Waterfront. In fact, he's a 2019 candidate, a brilliant one at that. So can we get something from you there, Solomon?
I'd just love to thank Bonny for sparing the time to spend with us today. Thank you, Bonny.
No problem.
And all the information overload that you're downloading upon us today.
Okay, you guys have my email address, so please feel free to contact me if you need any other information or more detail. I'll be happy to get in contact with you directly as well.
Okay, great. I've got a quick one for you.
Yes.
During the Shiraz explanation, you used the word reductive. How do you explain that in a layman's language?
So it sounds revolting, but it smells a little bit like a rotten egg. Yeah. I could say something else, but let's go with rotten egg.
It's fine. Okay, good.
Yeah. So the wine just smells very close, and it smells a little bit stinky, like maybe like farmyard manure kind of smell.
Yeah.
So that is a big problem with Shiraz. It can be quite off-putting.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Have you got time? Have you got time for another one?
Yes,
Yes, of course.
Solomon?
All right. My question was, when it comes to full body wines, let's say Cabernet Sauvignon, especially a specific particular Pinotage, how do you regulate the amount of tannins in there so that the wine is still pleasant?
So that the wine is still pleasant.
Pleasant, yeah. How do you regulate the tannins in there?
Well, I'm not sure if Pinotage can ever be pleasant, but we tried. It's tough. Yeah, for me, it is like I said, we cold soak before the time.
Yeah.
When we do our mixing during fermentation, it's a very soft action. You know, we don't try to do a lot of anything that we don't try to do any mechanical damage to the pips and the stems inside the fermentation at that stage. And then the biggest thing is to press early. As soon as as soon as you ferment dry on the skins, you start to extract all the bitter, harsh. And we try to, for Zonnebloem on the red, like I try to have like minimal intervention after fermentation. So I want to add my acid, I want to add my tannin, I want to get all my additions done, because the closer you get to bottling, the less you want to be actually still fiddling with your wine. At that stage, you want it to be integrated. I don't want to do any additions before bottling. So yeah, we don't use any animal products, so I don't use any gelatine on the reds either. So it's really important for me to have soft, well-balanced tannins at fermentation already. So it's a fine line, because you want a wine that can age. You know, I don't want something that's flabby and soft and tutti frutti. So I want something that has a bit of a spine and a backbone. But I don't want a wine that I'm going to have to sort of soften and fine before bottling. So taste. That's during fermentation, we taste a lot.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Brilliant.
No problem.
Thanks, Solomon. Fantastic. Okay, let's have a look. See who else we've got here. Lovejoy Nashamba was the 2019 Wine Student of the Year for the Distell into Hotel Challenge. And right, Lovejoy, do you have a question?
Not in the moment. Thank you so much.
Okay, fair enough. We've got Brian Namara. He is up from the Saxon.
Good day. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm gonna just jump into it. On Pinotage, I just wanna find out how old are these vines for Pinotage, and which barrels do you use, and what about the maceration? Do you leave it for some time? For how long? Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, so our vines are, we get from quite a few different producers. So I would say our vine ages are anywhere between 8 and 25 years old. All the Zonnebloem red grapes are harvested by hand. We don't do any machine harvesting. I don't like machine harvesting. I feel like I don't have control over what's getting extracted or the quality. So everything comes in small little tractor loads to us, whole bunch. With the barrels we use for Pinotage especially is French oak and American oak. The trick with the American oak is, for me, not to have too much, because then you start to get that vanilla, that butterscotch aromas, the coconut, and that's like stylistically really not what we're aiming for. So personally on the Zonnebloem reds, we go for more that, a little bit more old school, like the pencil shavings, the more natural wood, not this heavy toasted overripe sweet butterscotch style. So we use I would say about 70% French oak, and then the American oak portion is just there to actually soften the palate, because it brings a little bit of a sweetness. But when people taste my Pinotage, I want them to think, did she or didn't she use American oak? I don't want them to taste and go, oh, look at this vanilla butterscotch. Oh, this is all American wood. I want people to guess, you know. It must be that subtle that you're not really sure if it's there. On the Cab and the Merlot, we use the American portion for the same. We use it to just bring a bit of a subtle sweetness. And then on the Shiraz, we use a lot of Hungarian oak. More French and Hungarian, very little American oak. And the Hungarian oak brings more of a spiciness. You know, if you've got like a peppery in your Shiraz, it really gets accentuated in American oak. It really brings something different to the table. So there's really some interesting coopers out there at the moment.
So I wanted to ask, what is the best piece of advice for somebody that's starting in the wine industry?
Change careers. No, just joking. Just joking. I think patience and hard work. If you're not willing to be patient and to put in a lot of long hours and lots of hard work, it's not the industry for you. I think in the industry that you guys are all in, you work just as long hours as we do, possibly longer right through the year. So I know you guys understand long hours and hard work, but you have to plow lots of years of hard work before you really start to see the fruits. So yeah, patience and hard work. It's a career that brings a lot of joy. It's a really unique experience to be able to bottle something you've made every year, and to walk through a restaurant and see someone enjoying your wine. You know, it's the best feeling in the world that there's actually people out there appreciating the work you've put in. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Great. Obviously, we've got those red wines, and I know Rutendo up in Johannesburg has got all the wine tasting notes. But just in your opinion, just go through quickly your babies and just say what you think sets them apart, and just give us a few tasting tips that the wine stewards would love to share with their guests.
Okay, so I see on the list here I'll start with the Laureate 2017. So that's actually a blend of, it's 45% Cab, 40% Merlot, 10% Shiraz, and 5% Petit Verdot. But I can email through the spec sheets if you guys need it.
We do.
So yeah, this is our flag. Okay, I'll send this all. I can just attach it to email and pop it to you. So this is our flagship. This is the only wine besides the Zonnebloem Shiraz Mourvèdre Rivière that 100% goes into barrel, and it stays quite long, usually close to 2 years before we take it out of barrel and bottle. So that's, yeah, it's our biggest wine. It's bold, stylistically quite different to the Pinotage and the Shiraz, which are more soft, integrated, lots of upfront fruit. The Laureate, I'm glad they've got the 2017 and not the 2018. At least it's a little bit older, because it can be quite an aggressive wine. Personally, I like a more chewy wine. I don't think I'm cultured enough to enjoy like wines from 1980. I like something that has a bit of backbone to it. So yeah, you'll see when you taste it compared to the Pinotage and Shiraz, stylistically, it'll be very, very different. And I would pair it with something big and bold. Whatever you're going to serve it with, you do not want the wine to sort of be overpowering the food you're serving. I haven't tasted the 2017 in a while, so I'm hoping the tannins are nicely integrated. I've actually got some at home. I think I must open a bottle and sort of see what that's looking like.
We'll join you.
We're trying to be very sparing during this lockdown, where we've had no purchases of alcohol. It's been, the struggle's been real. Pinotage 2018, again, you'll pick up French oak, American oak, also very fruit driven, lots of cherries, cherry liqueur, red berry, and that's stylistically really what we're aiming for. Very soft, well integrated. Like I said, all our wines, red wines, are vegan, so there was no gelatine used. We actually use, if we do any additions before bottling, we actually add more tannin. So if a wine tastes quite tannic, it's because that tannin can actually fit into your taste buds. So we add more tannin to build a longer chain. So when a wine tastes softer, it's not that the tannins have dropped out, they've just built really long tannin chains and you can't actually taste them anymore. So that's sort of a trick we use before bottling. If I'm worried that it's still too tannic, we just add a bit more tannin to soften it. The Shiraz, that is quite spicy, probably it's less fruit driven than the Pinotage. You will definitely pick up there the Hungarian oak, lots of white and black pepper, a little bit of underlying fruit, again soft, well integrated. The Zonnebloem Noir de Noir 2017. So that was a blend that we totally just, marketing came to us and said we can do what we want, which doesn't happen often. So we made a blend of Cinsault, Pinotage, and Petit Verdot. So this little blend is actually 50% Cinsault, 40% Pinotage, and 10% Petit Verdot. Got very little oak. We used oak alternatives, only on a small portion. If I had to think back now, it was probably 40 or 50% of the blend got a little bit of wood. Again, stylistically, we wanted something that was easy drinking, approachable, sort of table wine, wine by the glass for restaurants, a little bit more tutti fruity, and maybe people that are just starting out with red wine, something soft, you know, and easy for a new red wine drinker to enjoy.
What made you decide that you wanted to become a red wine maker? Was it just your own preference of enjoying red wine?
Partly, and I think it probably suits my personality a bit more. I think white wine makers are a little bit more highly strung and impatient. You know, they bottle their vintages very early. First bottling is usually end of April, May, the same year you're harvesting. Where red wine, we're a bit more chilled. We don't own watches. We take our time. You know, your wines, red wine, you can't hurry the process. You've got to just let the wine age at its own pace. If you're going to force it, you're going to lose. So you've got to, more patient, more laid back, more chilled, relaxed. So I think it probably suits my personality a bit more.
That's the reason. And tell me, what is your view on corks and screw top?
So I think in South Africa we're a little bit more old school. When you're spending a lot of money on a bottle, you want to pop a cork. But I think going forward with the cork supply that we have in the world at the moment, the quality of cork, because they're harvesting cork younger, so the quality of cork we're getting is not always there. I think we're going to have to start to broaden our own minds and accept that, you know, screw cap is probably going to be the way of the future. On something like a Nuit de Noir, for me, that would be a no-brainer. With a little bit of convincing, I'm sure the core range as well, but I would be hard pushed to remove the Laureate and SMV from cork. I would probably, you know, I'm still a bit old school sometimes, so I like to pop a cork, yeah.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you there. All right, and then Bonny, listen, we would really welcome to have your email address, and I'll share it with the group. And this recording will be available to all those others who don't have the opportunity to join us this morning. So,
shame. Okay, great.
But if there are any more questions, I can honestly say that would be amazing if you could look at those. It's always good to share the knowledge.
Yes.
This one will be thrown directly at you, Bonny. It's all about preference, I guess. When it comes to screw tops and the corks, how much of that does it change of the actual content in the bottle? Actually, does it really do anything to the contents in the bottle? So
it's a big debate, and I think the winemaking fraternity is either pro or against. There's no one that sort of sits on the fence. Yeah. A lot of people believe that your wines won't become reductive, and that a screw cap actually allows better aging because there's a bit more air and integration happening in the bottle. And then there's sort of the older guys that don't want to hear it. They think it's cheap, it's common, that, you know. So yeah, I personally understand, like, the science behind the screw cap makes sense, but I've yet to see a bottle aged for 8 years under screw cap and tasted it to see, you know, what it's looking like. So it would be interesting to see, but I haven't tasted all the red that's been under screw cap. And South Africans in general, we're quite a conservative bunch when it comes to screw cap.
It is, yeah. All right, thank you for that.
Yeah, so sorry, it's all about oxygen uptake. That's it. Yeah, and obviously then you can limit the problem of cork taint as well. Yeah, if you've got a screw cap. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the major things that they all learn with the academy, the Sommeliers Academy, is how to open a screw cap, and then
because that's major.
Yeah.
And then never to replace it. So you don't replace a cork, so why you're not going to replace the screw cap? So
what is the So what is the trick when opening a screw cap? Do you like crack it at the table? Do you open it?
You've got to move the bottle, I believe. But Solomon, you're well placed in this one. I believe you hold the thing, the cap, and then you actually move the bottle. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. But well, I didn't bring a bottle here to demonstrate. I could have shown you how we taught to do it, because pretty much most people can open the cork, but there is a different technique that's applied to when you're opening a screw top. So I could have shown you if I did bring a bottle, but yeah, we do have different techniques of opening it.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
And also, does one present the cork? I mean, the cap, the screw cap, to the guest anymore? I think it's all it's lost a bit of that classical art, I suppose. Are there any more questions from anybody else on the group? All good. Okay, Bonny, thanks a million for your time. And I really don't want to hear that you got COVID. So look after.
No, actually, I don't. I actually just came into contact with someone that does. So we've just been placed in quarantine and had to be tested. I feel absolutely fine. Yeah.
Good to hear. Fantastic.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, my love. Thanks a million. Hey. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.